Okay, so we are already moving a lot faster compared to capacitor because we've been doing that video for like 35 minutes. However, again, we did not introduce anything new. Now, let's try to introduce something new by introducing discharging an inductor. So now we are going to not only charge the inductor, but also discharge the inductor. And this will be a bit longer than the usual problems. Okay, so I get my answer prepared here, and let's get started. First, let's read what it's requiring for us. So A, it's find IL, VL, VR1 and VR2 when fully charged and when the switch is closed. So we close the switch and we're going to calculate all these values when they are fully charged. Now B will say find IL, VL, R1 and R2 is no if the inductor is no and VR when I guess it should be like when the inductor is fully discharged and the switch is open. So after we close the switch, calculate the values in here. We'll open the switch, we'll discharge them, and we'll calculate their values when they are fully discharged. And then we'll charge the inductor for only 5 microseconds after it's fully discharged, and then we'll like fully discharge it again, and we will show the progress to a graph. All right, and let's look at the circuit as well. Here is the voltage source of 5 volts, here is the switch, and here are the resistances VR1, VR2. I just put them for the sake of diversity, adding more components in a circuit. And the inductor, they got 5 microhenries, no, 5 henries. All right, so let's start with A. And as usual, like in the capacitors and any in like capacitors, we start with the time constant, and again we need to calculate time constant, and this one will be for charging. So because the switch will be closed, so time constant charging will be equal with the number, there you go, be equal with the number of henries, which will be 5, divided by the resistance, which will be in total, which will be 3k in parallel 2k, and that one will be equal with 5 henries divided by 1.2k ohms. There you go. Therefore, no, and that will be equal with 4.2 milliseconds. So the time constant will be every 4.2 milliseconds. It will be a big change. Okay, now we need to calculate, next step after calculating the constant for charging is to calculate the current through the inductor when charging. So let me put a red wire here and let me mark here, this is the current direction IL when charging. So we use IL for charging. Okay, so the current will be equal with E over RT, which is the total resistance, and that will be equal with 50 divided by 1.2k, and that will give us a current of 41.67 milliamps. So that will be the current going through it, through the entire circuit. Now we need to find the current sorry about that, my throat is dry. The current through here, through this resistor that goes through the inductor, see, in this way, because we don't really care about the current going through this yet, through VR2. So we can apply the method that I showed you before, which is just drawing 2 quick resistors in parallel and write in the input current 41.67 amps, no, milliamps. This one will be 2k and this one will be 3k. All right, and then we apply the formula, which will be the current coming in, which is 41.67 milliamps, multiplied by the opposite of the resistor that we want. So we want to find out the current through the 2k ohms. So we'll use the opposite resistor, which will be the 3k ohms. So 3k over the total of them are added together, which will be 5k over 5k. There you go. And all of that will be equal with 25 milliamps. And that's quite fitting, to be honest. So there will be 25 milliamps going through 2k, which means that how is it going? That to the 3k it will be going 41.67 milliamps minus 25 milliamps, and that one will be equal with, let me just 41.6 no, yeah, 67 minus 25, that give us 16.67. So there will be 16.67 milliamps going through here. And that makes perfect sense because the 3K is got high resistance, and where there is high resistance, then there is lower current going through it. Okay, that'll be 16.67 milliamps. Now let's do the easy part, which is calculating all the values, them being IL, VL, VR1 and VR2. So we know that IL is basically the maximum current that can go through the inductor, and that maximum current will be simply 25 milliamps because that's the maximum current going through the 2k ohms. So it will be the 25 milliamps, and we add in the factor of time, which is 1 minus the exponential of t to the 4.2 milliseconds time constant. Similar for VL. VL will simply be 50 volts because all of the components are in parallel from each other. So there will be 50 volts simply going through VL. So 50 volts, and then we add the constant of time, which will be E minus T divided by 4.2 milliseconds. There you go, nicely done. Okay, now let's calculate VR1 and VR2. And honestly, this is very simple because yes, VR1 and VR2, they both are 50 volts as well. So 50 volts and 50 volts. However, it's a very big difference now inside the resistor VR1 because VR1 is manipulated directly by the inductor, which means that the value of voltage going to this resistor is depending of time because of the inductor. As you know, it slowly builds up the current going through it. So because it's not an instant progress, then it will slowly build it up, and therefore slowly the voltage inside the resistor will increase as the current increases in this section of the circuit. It's not an instant increase, it's not an instant current as like here. This one will just slowly increasing current. So for VR2, we don't need to put a factor of time because again there is no inductor connected to it in series, but we have to put one for VR1 because VR1 it is connected in series with the inductor, so it does require it is affected by the non-instant charge of the current. So we simply put 1 minus e minus t divided by 4.2 milliseconds. And this one was just just A. Now we need to do B. And B asks us for the same values, but this time when they are fully discharged. So now we again need to start by calculating the time constant, but this time for the discharge. So the time constant in discharge will be equal with the inductor L divided by the R total, the total resistance, and this time it will be equal with R1 plus R2. And you may wonder, well Alex, why is it R1 plus R2 this time and not the other way around? Well, let me show you why. So the red wire represents when the switch is closed. Now let's open the switch and represent the direction of the current and everything with the purple wire. And now the direction of the current is the following. See? Now it loops around it. that makes these two components, these two resistors, not parallel anymore because there is no current going through here. So therefore there is no junction between them, so they are simply connected in series now. And that is why we added them together instead of dividing them. And we did get 1 millisecond, so it will discharge faster compared to the charging time, which is this one here. And you can notice the relationship between the resistance and the discharge time. Here there are 5 henries again, but this time is divided by 1.2 k ohms, and that will discharge in 4.2 milliseconds time constant, and that will take longer compared to this one that has less current going through it, which is less current going, a higher resistance connected to, which is 5k, and then that will result in 1 millisecond of a time constant. So literally this almost discharges 5 times faster than charging, almost 5 times faster discharging than charging. That's pretty interesting. And again, you can see like how big of a difference it can make when you turn around one switch. All right, now after we calculate the discharge time constant for B, let's calculate the other components. So the voltage to the inductor will be equal with minus the initial voltage inside of it, Vi, E minus T divided by time constant. Important to use the initial voltage, the voltage that's already stored inside the coil, inside the inductor. And there is a simple formula for it actually, because the initial voltage Vi will be equal with the current I inside the inductor multiplied by total resistance RT, and that will be 25 milli times 5k, and that will be equal with 125 to the exponential minus t divided by time constant 1 millisecond, because this indicates the time as well. So that's how you convert the current inside the inductor into voltage that starts with. Of course, over time the voltage will lower, but when it starts with the maximum value of 125 volts inside of it. Okay, so that was pretty simple. Now we need to calculate Vi. No wait, we already did it. We need to calculate the current out of it. So IL, which will be equal with Vi, again the voltage inside of it already, divided by R1 plus R2, which are the two resistors, and that will be equal with 125 divided by 5k. That will be equal with 25 milliamps exponential minus t divided by 1 meters per second. Alright, so now we discovered both of them, and they both sustain each other. They both are needed from each other to be able to calculate it. You can do it in any order really. You either calculate first the voltage or you can calculate first the current, it doesn't really matter. But yeah, I would suggest to calculate first the current because it's easier to find the maximum current than to find the maximum voltage inside an inductor. Alright, now let's calculate VR1 and VR2. So VR1 and VR2. Now these two will basically have pretty much the same value. Why? Because it's very simple. Use the maximum current, which will be 25 milliamps, the overall current going through the circuit, and you just multiply by their respective resistance. So for example, in VR1 you multiply by 2k because that's the resistance inside of it, and in VR2 you multiply by 3k because there are 3k ohms inside the circuit inside of it. And again, it will check out because this one will be equal with 50 volts and this one will be equal with 75, which together they will give you 125 volts, and that 125 volts is the voltage inside the inductor. There you go. And again, they are affected by the time constant, which will be E minus T d1 minus ms, and E minus D divided by the power of 1 ms. Oh my god. And there you have it. We solved Power BI as well, and that's how you calculate it when you fully discharge it. When you fully discharge it, you use the current inside the inductor, which was 25 milliamps, and you also calculate the overall voltage inside of it, which will be the total resistance multiplied by the overall current, and that was 25 milliamps times 5k, which gives us 125 volts. Knowing so there will be 125 volts inside the inductor. All right, then it was easy to determine VR1 and VR2, since when they are together multiplied by the current, it should give you the same voltage. All right, and you know, all of them, they just hold each other, you know, just prove each other up. Yeah. Now let's go to question C, which is charge the inductor for 5 seconds, 5 milliseconds. So let's turn around the, oh no, wait, I can't turn it around. I'll need to, let's put it here, and I'll need to work on a new page, because the other side is written, and also I want to still see the circuit and the questions. So let's calculate. It's simple to calculate at a specific time. So we need to calculate it at 5 milliseconds. So we just simply do IL is equal with 25 milliamps 1 minus the exponential of minus 5 milliseconds, because that's the time we want, divided by the time constant, which is 4.2 milliseconds. And that would be equal with 17.4 milliamps. So that's the current inside the inductor after 5 milliseconds, and when we stop it. Let's calculate the voltage inside the inductor as well, which will be 50 volts E minus 5 ms divided by 4.2 ms, again because it's a time constant, and there will be 15.2 volts inside of it by that time. So after 5 milliseconds, there will be also 15.2 volts inside the inductor. And now the other two values, they don't really matter, but let's write them down. So VR1 will be equal with 50 times 1 minus E minus 5 milliseconds divided by 4.2 milliseconds. Again, because the first resistor, our resistor 1, is connected in series with the inductor, so it's directly affected by the inductor. And VR2 just stays constant of a 50 volts. It doesn't move, it doesn't need a time constant, it doesn't need anything, because it is not connected to the inductor. All right, now this was C, and let's go to part D. And part D asks us to fully discharge the inductor. So now we'll fully discharge it. So part D. So then VI, the voltage inside the inductor, will be equal with 17.4 milli times 5K, which will be equal with 87 volts. So again, we used the current inside the inductor, and we will multiply by the total resistance, and that will give us 87 volts. So that is the voltage inside the inductor at the moment after 5 milliseconds of charge. So VL will be equal with 87 times, and then we add the time constant of E minus the time divided by 1 ms. And then IL, it's similar, it will be use the voltage inside the inductor, VI divided by, again, R1 plus R2, and that will be equal with 87 divided by 5K, and that will be equal with 14.4 milliamps. And ironically enough, it just gives us the same ampage. I don't know why I just calculated. I guess it's to like show the workout, to be honest, show how the workings of it. But yeah, because it's in series, again, it's in series, so there should be no difference in current. All right, and now VR1 will be equal with 17.4 milli times 2K, which will be equal with 34.8 the time constant minus t divided by 1 millisecond. And then VR2 has the same problem, because now both of them are connected in series with the inductor, so the inductor affects both of them at the same time. that will be equal to 52.2 E minus T divided by 1 microsecond. There you go, and when you add them together, it should give 87. So yeah, everything is fine right now. So that is the answer. That will be the values when fully discharged. They'll go down from this value all the way down to 0 for all of them. But don't worry, you'll see this better in the graph that I made, which should be around here. Is it this one? No, it is not. Oh, there it is. Okay, and here is the graph for it. So we isolate them. So this is part A, part B, part C, part D. So we'll use this pencil to separate them. So this will be the current. This is the current, and this is the span of time. So when it charges up, it will go from 0 all the way to 24.8. So almost at the top of maximum current. And then from this point, we again switch the switch to open. That will make it into a discharge inductor. So now it's not charging anymore, it's discharging. And instead of going up, it goes all the way down to 0.17, which basically you can say pretty much that it's equal to 0 compared to what it was before. And then again, we close the switch for 5 milliseconds only this time. So for only one time period, it goes up to 70.4 milliamps. And then again, we discharge it. It will take 5 time constants to discharge. It will go all the way down to 0.11. So that's how the voltage graph, the current graph will look like. It will keep the same direction because there is no negative values to it. Now here, this is the voltage one, and it's a bit more complicated. So it starts at 50 volts and then it slowly goes down. As the current increases, the voltage goes down slowly, and then there's no more voltage inside of it. And then we open the switch to discharge it. And then when we discharge it, the polarity reverses and it goes all the way to minus 125 volts. And from there, it goes very abruptly to 0. From 125 it goes to 46 volts, and then from 46 to 17 volts, and so on. And you may wonder, like, well, what does it mean if the voltage is negative? That means the polarity is the opposite. So as you can see here, again, I'll use purple to represent. So this is the positive and this is the negative before. When the switch was closed, this will be the positive and negative values. However, when the switch is opened, then this is not the positive and negative values anymore. Now it will go positive, negative, and there should be a negative here. It will become a positive and a negative because the current and voltage, the voltage will be reduced as it goes through each resistor. And there you go. And that's why the polarity is reversed, because it will reverse the polarity of the other components as well. Okay, it might maintain the same current direction, but that doesn't mean the other components around it maintains the same polarity. They will become negative charged. They'll have the negative polarity to them. The positive and negative will switch around. Now again, it will go and it will discharge itself until it reaches 0, and then all of a sudden it goes up back to 50 and then down to 35, because after 5 milliseconds it will charge, which results in a partial voltage discharge. And then again it will go all the way down to 87 volts, because that was the current, and the current determines the voltage, and because it is discharging, the polarity of the voltage in the components will be opposite, and therefore it will slowly go again back to 0, like in this one here. And you can see how much the current can affect the voltage, especially when it's a lot of resistance, really. And you can see how much the difference between resistance in parallel and resistance in series is, because in parallel the resistance is 1.2k, so the increase isn't that much really. It's only about 50 volts and 3.35 volts, and also because there was a voltage source. But when the voltage source is gone and the resistance is very high, it's almost 5 times as high, then of course the voltage in the opposite direction, you know, the voltage to the inductor, which becomes the new current, the new voltage source, will become a lot larger. All right, so I'll pause in here because this is the end of this question, and the question that basically, where did I put it? I guess I lost it. Anyway, that was the question in the circuit that asked us to calculate the, oh no, it's here. There you go. This is the question that asks us to calculate the values when they are fully charged inside the inductor and when they are fully discharged. So now we covered the major points. We covered charging an inductor, we covered charging an inductor with initial charge inside of it, and now we covered charging and discharging of the same inductor. Okay, so this will be the last circuit that requires us to calculate the current through the inductor, and that has to do with the time constant. And I'll call this one a complex inductor circuit, because I added a lot of values and variables and different things. For example, something that you'll first notice is that not only that I added two voltage sources to it and two switches, but I also added a current source and a voltage source instead of two voltage sources. And also there's resistance in here and in here. So we also have the resistors that affect the overall circuit. Okay, and don't worry, I made it a lot easier this time. This time we'll only calculate the current through IL, which the current through the inductor, and that should make it a lot faster to calculate as well. So we'll just do the important bits first, and then we'll work our way down to the specifics. For example, if you know the current through all the switch positions, then it will be really easy to calculate the voltage in that switch position, or to calculate the voltage inside the resistance at those switch positions, and so on. Right, so let's start with the first one. So if we close switch 1 and calculate the current through the inductor, so switch 2 stays open, which is this one, is switch 2, and switch 1 closes. So let's close this one, and then we know the current flow will be in this direction. It will go from up, down, up, and all the way back to it. There you go. Hopefully you can see it. Okay, so let's get started with it. Oops, sorry about that. Again, just using only one hand, it's a bit hard. But anyway, first, as usual, we start by calculating the time constant. So the time constant will be equal with 700, which is L, the inductor, over 1K, which is the resistance, which there is only one resistor of 1K going through it. And that will simply be equal with 0.7 seconds, or 700 milliseconds if you want to be that specific. And that will be when charging. So charging. There you go. Now we can easily calculate the current as well, because it's got a voltage source of 5 volts and it's got 1K on resistor, so we can easily calculate the current going through it. So 5 over 1K will be equal to 5 milliamps, and therefore IL will be equal with 5 milliamps, and then we add the constant of time, which will be 1 minus E minus T divided by the time constant. There you go. We know it's 5 millivolts because there's only one direction the current can flow, which is this one, and because they all are connected in series, they all use the same current. And basically there's 5 milliamps going through all of them, therefore 5 milliamps goes through this inductor as well. Alright, so we did the first part. Now let's do the second part. Open S1, so we are going to reopen this one, make it back open, and close S2, then calculate the current through the inductor. Well, this will be interesting. First, because we can actually simplify this circuit. We don't have to use the current. We can simplify by using Thevenin's theorem. So Thevenin's theorem at these 2 points here, and then we reduce this side of the circuit in a we'll reduce it in a voltage supply and a resistor, and we'll make it similar to this one here, meaning that it will again be connected in series with the inductor, and that will make everything easier. So let's apply Thevenin's theorem then. So be here, and we know Thevenin's theorem is very fast and easy, because first step you calculate the Thevenin's resistance. So it will be all the resistors. There will be the 2K and the 10K, and then there will be the RTH. And in this one you pretend that it's an invisible wire going through it, and therefore they're connected in series because there's an invisible wire through here. So RTH will be equal with 10K plus 2K, which is equal to 12K ohms. So that's the RTH. Now let's calculate the voltage supply, the VTH. So first we put the current in, that will be 10 milliamps. Then we have in parallel one resistor, the 2K, and then we have another resistor here to the top, which is the 10K. And we know that when applying Thevenin's theorem, VTH, when calculating VTH, this one is seen as an open circuit. There is no wire, nothing invisible to it. So we'll need to calculate the voltage value from this point on, because the 2K it's in perfect parallel with VTH. So VTH is at that point. Therefore, VTH, and again, because there's no current going through here, then there is no current going from the 10 milliamps to the 10K. So all 10 milliamps will go through the 2K. So VTH will be equal with 10 milliamps times 2K, which will be equal with 20 volts. So now let's redraw the new circuit. So here it's one of them. Here it's the switch. Here is the inductor. And I know it's a bit ugly done, but I don't want to make the video longer than is necessary. There you go. There's another resistor, there is the power source, and here is the wire. This will be 12K because it's RTH. This one will be VTH, and that one will be 20 volts going through it. Great. This one will be 6 volts and this one will be 1K. There you go. And this one will of course be the 700 millihenries. Alright, so don't remember that this inductor, it's actually still charged from the previous. So even if we opened this circuit here, even if the switch is open, it still has inside a 5 milliamps charge. So there are still 5 milliamps worth of charge inside this inductor. So let's pick another color using red. Using red, let's mark the direction of this voltage, which will go, there's a wire, and the voltage will simply go in this direction to the resistor, and oh my, as you can see, it goes in the opposite direction of 5 milliamps. Well, what does that mean? It means that they will be fighting each other. And what do I mean by fighting each other? Well, this current, because the switch is closed and this switch is open, eventually the current from VTH, from switch number 1, will overcome this purple current, the 5 milliamps. So over time, this current will be the predominant current inside the inductor. Again, because this switch is open and this current cannot hold it back forever. So let's start with the simple calculations. First of all, let's calculate the current, the red current, which is the reference current, which is the new current coming inside the inductor. So IF will be equal with 20 volts divided by the resistance, which is 12K. That will be equal with 1.67 milliamps. And let's calculate the time constant as well. Let's not forget this one. Time constant is equal with L over RTH. That's equal to 700 over 12K. And that's equal with 58.3 milliseconds. A really long time for to charge. Both of them are charging. None of them is discharging. but it's more of a fight over which voltage source will charge the inductor and which current direction will the inductor take. Okay, all right. Now let's calculate IL. So as you know from the formula, it will be IF plus and then II, the current inside the inductor, which we know it's 5 milliamps, but that's not right yet, minus IF again, and then close it, and then we add the time it's called time exponential, so 58.3 milliseconds, because there's time constant in here. All right, now let's put in the values that we have. So we know the IF, the reference current, will be 1.67 milli, plus we know the current inside the inductor is 5 milliamps, because in our first step we close this switch and we charge it up to 5 milliamps, so that will be 5 milliamps, minus again the reference current, which is 1.67 milliamps, and then the exponential of time, which is e to the power of minus t, 58.3 milliseconds. There you go. So that will be how we calculate it. So we can like even simplify it even more, which will be equal with 1.67 milliamps minus 6.67 milliamps times the exponential of time, e minus t divided by 58.3 milliseconds. There you go. So now we determined the current value inside B as well, which will be this value here. This will become a lot clearer when you see the graph, really. But anyway, let's keep going. Now the last one, not the last one, now C is now both switches are closed. What is the current through the what's called inductor? So we know the current in the first part, in part A, the inductor was charged with the 5 milliamps because this switch was open and this switch was closed, and then it charged it with 5 milliamps. Now, because this switch is open and this switch is closed, it took a while to discharge the inductor from the 5 milliamps and get the control and to fill it up with its own 1.67 milliamps in this direction and maintain like that. This was possible because this switch was open. Well, what if now both switches are closed? There you go. And now it will be a fight for which current goes in which direction, to see if through the inductor which current will go and which will be the direction of the current. That's what C is asking us to do, and it is actually pretty simple, because I mean you can already see in here we know that the 5 milliamps it's larger of a value than the 1.67 milliamps, so we already know the current will go from the direction of down to up, and then the 6 volt source will become the predominant source and the current will follow it, because the current is larger than this one that has a voltage source of 20 volts but a resistance of 200k. So let's calculate. So I will be equal with 5 milli minus 1.67 milli, so that will be the total current going through it, so 3.33 milliamps. That I will call it the current reference, and then the time constant we'll calculate it. That will be equal with all over, and then we'll do R1 in parallel with R2, because this is a junction in here. Because it's a junction, that means that these two resistors are in parallel from each other. So that will be equal with 700 in parallel with 12k parallel with 1k, and that will be equal with 700 divided by 928, and that will give us 0.75 seconds, which is really slow. It's even slower than the original A. But anyway, it's also slower because you know there are two currents fighting each other, so it will obviously take a while until it like settles down and the right current goes into the right position. And also it's because the two resistors are connected in parallel, and a small resistance will mean longer time to charge up. All right, so now we found the current, so that will be easy. So we found the reference current, therefore RL will be equal with the reference current should be 3.33 milliamps, which will be the end current really, plus minus 1.67 milliamps, which is the current that was inside the inductor already. And why this value is a minus and the 3.33 is not a minus? Well, because they are the opposite direction. As I said, if it's opposite from each other, then obviously it will reach a minus value. If, let's say, the current, let's say we'll make all currents going from up to down in a positive value and all the currents coming from down, from up to down, a negative value. So that one will always be a negative while this one will always be a positive. And I made the 5 milliamps a positive because it's easier to show in a graph, you know, because you'll end up with a positive, you'll end up with a positive current flow, which is like the correct current flow direction, instead of the negative current flow, which will be the wrong, because it will be the opposite current flow direction. I explained this one in my previous videos in greater detail about current direction really. So you should be already familiar with this subject. But anyway, there goes, so that'll be minus 1.67 and then minus 3.33 MA, the reference current, and then we add in the constant of time, 0.075, and now we just simplify, which will be 3.33 minus 5 milliamps E minus the time constant, 0.075. There you go. And that's it really. That's everything calculated. So mathematically this is the answer, but to show you how it will actually look if you look to it in an oscilloscope, I made a graph of it, which is this one here. So this is when switch 1 was closed and the inductor charged up to 5 milliamps. The 5 milliamps that went in the same direction. But let me just use this one. There you go. That's like the 5 milliamps going in this direction, which is positive because it follows the correct current flow. And then we open this switch and close this one. And when you close this one, then all the current went all the way down to 0.67 in a very short time, in only one time constant, because there was no voltage to provide the current to fight back the new current coming through it, the new direction of current. And because the new direction of current is seen as a negative value, and then go down to minus 1.65, which is basically the maximum value, very close to it. And then again a switch happened when we close both switches. Then again it will go from the negative value back to the positive value, because the 5 milliamps is far greater than 1.67 milliamps. So it will quickly go back to its original positive state, the original current flow, and it will be at the value of minus 1.5 milliamps, and then it will slowly grow up to the permanent 3.33 milliamps current flow when both switches are closed. And you can see already how you can control current by switches and inductors really, can't you? Because again, it takes time for the change to occur, and not only that, but you can also determine the current flow and the amount of current going through it as well. So yeah, and these are the answers for it, and with the time constants. You know, charging, it's quite slow in the switch when in position number 1, but in position number 2 it's a lot faster. In position number 3 it's again slow. But anyway, this is the final answer for the question, the circuit that I showed you, and this is how it's going to react if only switch number 1 was open, if only this switch was open, if only switch number 2 was open, if only this switch was open. This will be the output of the inductor, and when both switches are closed, this is the output of the inductor. So now, after watching these two videos, like this video and the previous one, you shouldn't have any problems in calculating the inductors and the current inside of an inductor and the way it charges up. Okay, now the next video, because there's only one more left, will be a lot easier. Again, it will be about multiple inductors and how you interact with them inside the circuit. And that would be a very easy subject. Because again, like as the capacitors, you can calculate with inductors in series and parallel, but again, they'll have a spin on them, they're opposite. So you'll see soon how you calculate them. Anyway, thank you for watching this video as well, and hopefully you find it helpful.